The quality manual deals with how you intend to operate the system. And so to make it easy for everyone, I always try and give a simple example. If you look at a pump, you got the motor, you got the junction box, you got the cables coming in, you got the coupling, you got all that stuff on the pump. But if I tell a person to switch the pump on, they don't know how to switch the pump on. They need to get a manual or operating maintenance manual explain to them, how do you switch the pump on? When something's wrong with the pump, how do you maintain it? And that's what the manual is. The manual is how do I maintain my system.
How's it, guys? Welcome to another episode of Quality Time with Owen Francis. Today's going to be amazing. We've got my personal mentor, Martin Adams, and he's going to be talking about practical quality management, how to apply quality management on a project-specific environment. So I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Owen, man. Appreciate that there. Okay, as Owen said, that I'm going to present practical quality management this afternoon to everybody. Maybe just before we go into the course itself that we put together, we just need to give some background. Basically, I've been in the construction industry from 1989 till about the year 2000, working as a pipe fitter. And eventually I got bored with that there, so I went into inspection. I done level 1 and level 2. Eventually, I also was bored with that, so I was looking at another option. I had two options, whether to go into continue down the line with inspection or alternatively go into management. And eventually I thought to myself, no, going further into inspection, whether it's IPE or competent person, it's still the same thing. It's inspection for me. So I opted to go into management. But unfortunately, if you know the industry, there's not many management courses that deal with quality on projects and engineering. But I found something at UNISA, which was TQM, and I did do the TQM course. But after doing the course, I realized that's general quality management. So in other words, that course, it's applicable for any environment, not just construction engineering. That course is applicable for whether you're working in a shoe factory or fish factory. You can apply those principles and those processes. And eventually, after TQM, I went into and do my PMP with PMI, which is your project management course. And basically, that's where I am at this point in time in terms of qualifications. Then I also got experience in different big companies like Marian Roberts, Group 5, construction, all the other companies. And then I also went to work. I also worked for EPCM companies such as Hatch and Oricon. And basically, I also work for some of the owners' teams in Transnet and also in ArcelorMittal. Currently, I'm working for myself. I'm running a company called D&M Project Management Consultants. We specialize in quality, but I also do other areas in terms of management. And also I do training, and obviously this is the course that we intend doing today, practical quality management. And after discussions with Owen said, I'm going to do a quick presentation so at least people can get at least a different view of what quality management actually really is. And so obviously the question we have to ask ourselves is, why did we go and write out the manual? And the main reason why we wrote the manual out, because we've been on so many projects where you look and you realize that guys come in and they learn on the job. No one understands what they need to do. And so a guy comes in, he doesn't know nothing about quality, he becomes a clerk, someone teaches him, he goes back, next time he starts to work as a clerk. And so we decided to do something for quality managers, those who want to pursue quality and become managers. We decided to go and do a practical quality management manual. And so basically that's the reason why we got that manual written out. And so what I want to do is I want to run through the structure of the manual. So at least you got an idea of what's the course, what the whole course entails. And it's broken out into 4 different topics. The first topic is the course introduction, and that will tell you basic stuff about the course. And the second part is the quality management setup. Then the third topic is practical quality management on a project. And finally, obviously, is your handover and close out, explaining how you hand over and close the project. The course introduction, that basically gives you the fundamentals. It lays the foundation of how the course will run and gives you an understanding of the different types of jargon that's used within the quality and project management environment. The second topic of the course, which is quality management setup, that basically deals with how the ISO standards fit into the whole structure. So in other words, what I'm saying is that many come in and they hear about ISO 9001, but they don't know where it fits in. And so if you look at the whole structure, you'll realize that what you have on top, you have an ISO body. And these are the guys who publish standards, and these are guys who develop the standards. So they write it out the standards somewhere, and then they say they want these standards implemented. So if any new product comes online, they say we've got to have a standard to manage it. And so all the technical committees come together and they write out a standard, and that standard they say, right, this is ISO 343A for welding, or this is ISO 9000 for quality management systems. And that's how they put the structure together, and they put that system, that standard together. And eventually what they do, they look for the accredited board. Accreditation board is a board that can accredit companies to implement the standard. So your accredited board is basically your agent for your ISO body of standards. And these are the guys who do your audits, they do your assessments. So they will do audits and assessments on companies like Lloyd's Register, on SAIW, on DIRCA. These guys are the guys who come and they'll assess them and they say, right, now you're accredited to be able to certify a company to ISO 9001. And then you got the lowest level, which is your Group 5s, your Marian Roberts, and all those guys. They basically the buyers. They come and say, I want my company to be ISO 9000 accredited, or I want my company to be ISO 3834. They go and apply, they look at the seller, they go to DIRCA and they say to him, please, can you come and get us accredited? And so that's how this whole structure works. And that's what we do in the first lesson. Second lesson, we talk about the quality manual versus a quality management system. Now, you have to define the two. What's the difference between the two? Now, we all understand basically a quality management system is more to do with your organizational structure. It got to do with your roles and responsibilities, your procedures, your systems, your checklists, your forms, your guidelines. Then when you go across it, your quality manual deals with how you intend to operate the system. And so to make it easy for everyone, I always try and give a simple example. If you look at a pump, you got the motor, you got the junction box, you got the cables coming in, you got the coupling, you got all that stuff on the pump. But if I tell a person to switch the pump on, they don't know how to switch the pump on. They need to get a manual or operating maintenance manual, explain to them, how do you switch the pump on? When something's wrong with the pump, how do you maintain it? And that's what the manual is. The manual is how do I maintain my system? That's what it is. And so in a course, we differentiate between the two and we try to explain to those who are part of the course how this thing actually comes together and how it actually works. And so after that, in the next section, we also explain how to actually write out the manual now. And we help people through the course to include all the elements of ISO 9001 and also to make sure all their company processes are included in that manual when they write it out. And then in section 3, which is your practical quality on the project, which I think is the most important part. And the first question we usually ask in the courses, you need to ask, where do you start? So if you come on a job and you're the quality manager, what do you start and what do you start doing? And so basically the first question you ask is, what is your company's role on the project? So what I'm saying is, you come on a job, you need to know, who is my company and what's their role within this whole project. So in other words, your company could just be a service provider. Maybe they're only there to come do pressure testing. Or your company could be the fabrication company, or your company could be the erection company, or it could be the EPCM. It depends. And so you need to understand, what's my company's role first. Secondly, what you need to understand is, where in the life cycle of the project are we? So every project has a life cycle. And the life cycle starts from conception. It goes into FEL1, FEL2, FEL3, and FEL4. And why we say we need to know where you are in the life cycle, because many come only at FEL4 during execution, and they think that's the project. And yet the project actually started 6 years ago. So the idea is to make sure you understand where you start. Okay, and then we also want to know, the next question is, what contract is being implemented? And that's a very, very important question, because if you don't understand the contract that's been implemented, you can have major problems. And so basically, when you need to know, when you're trying to understand what's the contract, you need to understand there's various contracts. Number one, there's NEC. They can be FIDI contracts. They can be your GCC contracts. They can be your standard company contracts. So you need to understand, what contract is my company using on this project? because contracts affect the way you're going to manage quality. So you get different types of contracts. For example, within FIDIC or within NEC, you can have a contract, a fixed term contract, or a fixed price contract rather. And a fixed price contract is your price for a job, 100,000, nothing more than that day. And you're going to work to that job. Then you get other contracts where it's cost reimbursable. So you do the job and everything what the company is doing, they calculate the cost financials and then they put a markup and they price it. Then there's also another type of contract which is time and materials. There's no schedule there. You get told, we're not sure about the scope of work. Bring your material, bring your people, and start doing the job. And so these are different types of contracts to get. Why I'm saying contracts are important, because there can be a lot of duplications in contracts, because contracts use similar terms like what your quality management system will use. For example, in a contract, you'll have what we refer to as a defects certificate. But when you look at your system, it's referred to as an NCR. So if you don't understand your contract, you'll be duplicating everything you're doing. You'll raise a non-conformance, someone else will raise the defects. The contract people will raise the defects. For example, another similar thing is like preventive action request. You issue a preventive action request, but the contractor guy will issue an early warning. So unless you understand what contract you're working with, and you integrate it with your system, you're going to have problems and you're going to have a lot of duplications in terms of how to manage your contract. And so the next big thing for me is after the contract, you need to understand now, how do I extract my quality requirements out of the contract? Because that's the first document as a quality manager you need to look at. Forget about the quality, I need to understand what's written in my contract and what are the quality requirements there. And then I need to draw up a list and see this is what the client wants, this is what his mandate is from me, and then I develop my system. And also we need to understand how to prepare your project quality plan as well. And that's what we do in the course. How to prepare a project quality plan for the project. Because that's what most EPCM wants, and that's what they require. How to prepare a project quality plan. And obviously we go through all the normal stuff, how to do audits, how to do assessments, how to audit your suppliers, how to audit your vendors, and so forth on the contract. Then we also deal with how do you slice up the project into management parts or manageable parts. And we deal with this because many times you don't understand what are the different areas related to the project. And that's why we always talk about the work breakdown structure or the package breakdown structure. And this is what you get from the engineering guys. The engineering breakdown structure you usually get from them. So example, if you look at a project, it's divided into different disciplines. Project can have a piling scope, you can have the concrete work scope, you can have all the structural scope work, you can have the piping, you can have the mechanical, you can have the electrical, you can have the instrumentation, and all these are different disciplines. Now, if you're working as an EPCM, you're going to have to manage all those disciplines. But if you're coming in as maybe Marian Roberts, for example, all you're going to do is do the piping. But the project is not the piping, the project is everything. And so this is why we said you got to understand how to break up the whole project into manageable parts. And once you can break up the manageable parts, then you know how to interact the different parts with each other. And so we explain about the management, the engineering breakdown structure, and the project breakdown plan. And so once we understand it, we also discuss how to manage quality in the different aspects. For example, you've got a procurement department, you've got a tendering department, you've got an engineering department, you've got a construction department, you've got commissioning people. And the question you have to ask yourself all the time is, where does quality fit into all these different departments? And so unless you understand that, you're not going to know how you fit in. And so, for example, at tender phase, quality management got a role to play. And quality management's role in tender stage is to evaluate all the suppliers. For example, if your company got a project in separate, and your boss or your director will say to you, we need to go and we're going out to tender. This is the project. I mean, to get 10 fabricators. Your job is to go to each fabricator, do an assessment on their workshop, do assessment on their quality management system, an assessment on the equipment that they use, their overhead cranes, and evaluate and give them a rating of where they fit in. Then you go to the next shop, and based on your calculations, you can tell your director which
company is most suited to be able to execute the works. That's your role when it comes to tendering. Then you do the evaluation, you do the weighting, and you give your input. Now, your input might only be 20% of the 100%, because engineering must do their input, commercial must do their input, safety must do their input. And so we add all this up to 100%. So if someone gets 30% or 10% for quality, some might get 5% for engineering. But when you add up, it'll tell you how much the person got out of 100%. And that's the idea when it comes to tendering. For example, procurement. Procurement quality is responsible for procurement to make sure that when the purchase requisitions go out, you make sure that your specifications, your standards, and the quality requirements for the project are included in the requisition. Otherwise, the contractor comes in, he does the work. Next month, when you reject his work, he says, but I never priced for quality. Why? Because no one told him he has to include quality. And so this is why we're saying there's a quality aspect in every part of the project, whether it's costing, whether it's safety, whether it's engineering. And this is what we train in the course. We make you understand how you implement quality in all the different departments within the project. And then we also talk about reporting. How do I write out reports? Now, I'm not just talking about inspection reports. I'm talking about your closeout reports. How do I put a closeout report together? What is a closeout report? We explain all that there. We talk about meetings. How do I put my minutes of a meeting together? What are the key elements in that meeting that should be addressed in quality? How do I track quality in the project? How do I do evaluation in terms of progress on quality? Then eventually we talk about also a handover in the presentation in the course, and we deal with the different ways of handover. And this is why we spoke about the handover structure early on, because that's critical when it comes to how am I going to hand over the project. I need to understand how do I break it down, and you have to develop a handover structure basically. And we explain how to do the handover structure and how to use the engineering breakdown stuff to get your handover done, and how you hand over the project. And obviously, the project handovers in different phases. So most people think, okay, when we done the punch list and we signed off our category A items, whatever, the job's handed over. No, it's not handed over. After you do your punch and you do your punching, whatever you've done, you're going to hand over that to commissioning. Now, when you work on EPCM project, that becomes your responsibility as well. Because when a punch item signed off, which means now we can go into testing. But that doesn't mean the work is complete. And so you can go into testing and you can begin to test the line, do whatever you want to do. Then it comes reinstatement. After reinstatement now, what you must do, you must go back now and look at all the other aspects that need to be signed off. And once your systems are signed off, then you're going to go into hot commissioning as well. That's when you start introducing product into the line, whether it's oil, whether it's gas, whether it's coal, whatever, into the conveyors, whatever it might be. You start releasing your product onto the system. Once your product comes, this is what they refer to as load testing now. Because now we're testing the actual product of what the plant which we built it for. And at that stage, now you still have to look at defects, because during that stage, a lot of defects are coming up. Things start breaking. Things are falling off that weren't done properly. And this is why construction companies always run away think they finish. And then they don't realize that there's a lot of problems will be getting picked up at this stage. And this is why in all contexts, you'll find that there's always a contract with 52 weeks defects liability period. So in other words, from the time you sign up for construction completion certificate, the client or the EPCM has 52 weeks still left for you to come back and repair and fix up anything that's broken. This is why what they do on most projects, well, every project I've worked on, they hold a retention. So in other words, your project's worth 100 million rand, they hold 10% of the 100 million rand, which is 10 million. They take that 10 million and they keep it. And that 10 million stays until the 52 weeks is over. So for example, if we start the conveyor and your idlers fall off and your belt snaps, we call you back and we say to you, come back and come repair your work, and they give you a list and say, your belt snapped, you need to sort your belts out, you need to sort your conveyors out, you need to put your idlers in. And let's say, for example, you can't come back. That 10 million we use to bring someone else on board. And that contractor comes in, he does the repairs, and he deducts it off your money. After 52 weeks, we walk through the whole plant again to see if there's any other issues. Only we confirm there is no more problems after 52 weeks. Then we sign off and we say, now this is complete and final handover. And then we hand over certificate to commercial, and the financial people will issue out your balance of your money left from your retention. And so that is when the project actually hands over now, and the client takes over completely, and he takes over the project. And at that stage,
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning into our episode today, Quality Time with Owen Francis. Today we have presenter Martin Adams discussing practical quality management. I hope you found it valuable. Please leave a comment below if there's something you'd like us to discuss. Until next time, be safe.